Yo, what is going on, everyone? It is Wraith here, back with another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about 5 mistakes you might be making when practicing or trying to improve at Fortnite. And these are going to be 5 really important things that if you're doing is definitely going to be holding you back from improving and becoming a better player. So if you're looking forward to this video, make sure you slap a like button on it, hit that subscribe button. We're getting so close to 50k, which if you guys don't know, I'll be doing a day in the life, my setup tour, and basically what I do as a YouTuber. So I'm super excited for that, and hopefully you guys are too. But yeah, hopefully looking forward to this video, and let's get right into it. So the first mistake I see a lot of people doing, and this ties into a lot of the other tips, but it's not going out of your comfort zone. Basically, so many people will be doing the same routine over and over again and doing the same things every single day, which, don't get me wrong, being consistent is really good and doing things that you need to improve on is really good. But the problem with that is you get like complacent, like you don't do anything crazy, you're just going to remain the same, you're going to slowly improve. But if you notice players like Mongrel, Benji, the top players, even creative players, they're always pushing their limits, they're always pushing their mechanics, always pushing to be better players. So what you need to be doing is, for example, if you have like 2 to 3 high ground retakes, well, start working on different ones, like start practicing them, start using Faceways retakes or whoever retakes that you see on YouTube that you're like, hey, you know what, this looks pretty cool. Even if you don't use it in game, by pushing your mechanics and pushing your ability to do a couple of builds in a row, you're going to be pushing your mechanics to get better and better, right? Same thing with piece control. And if you're like an average piece controller, like you're not Unreal, maybe start grinding and putting in the time on a little bit more piece control maps and pushing your mechanical limit. Like you want to be pushing yourself to the point where sometimes you're failing. Like you shouldn't be hopping into creative and say, I'm going to work on my building and editing, and then nail every single build and every single editing, right? Because what's the point? Like I understand you're trying to perfect the things you're good at, but you need to be pushing the envelope, pushing your mechanics to the next level. And the only way you can do that is by failing, right? So figure out what like things you need to work on, not even what you need to work on, but just leave in your comfort zone. Like if you're playing Kovacs or if you're playing an aim map in creative, instead of just playing it and like doing it, push yourself, like try and get as fast as possible, try and get better times, try and get more like better scores in Kovacs. Like I said, for high ground retakes, try and complete different high ground retakes that you've never been able to complete before. That way you're pushing your mechanics to a different level. The next thing I see a lot of people struggle with and a lot of people doing is not realizing when you're doing something wrong or when you do the incorrect play or whatever the case is. Now, this is a little bit different for each situation, because for some people, you might be able to recognize a mistake, and for other people, you might not even think that was a mistake. You might have thought that was the right play. So basically, you just got to kind of start working on your ability to tell when you did something wrong. And it's a very hard skill to learn, just because it's not really like something you can just gain overnight or start kind of just practicing on. But what I recommend doing is every single time you die or every single time you make a mistake, whether it's when you're practicing or when you're in game, just kind of try and like take a minute, instead of just hopping in a new game or going back into that high ground retake or whatever the case. Take a minute and just be like, hey, what happened there? Like what caused me to die, or what caused me to miss that retake? Did I rotate my mouse too far? Did I use my joysticks, or did I place the cone too quick? Like, well, what was it that made me fail on that specific play, right? By realizing your mistakes, it'll allow you to actually start improving on them and fixing your mistakes, because fixing your mistakes is one of the best ways to get better. But the problem is, so many people will make a mistake or do a bad play and just brush it off, or not even think about it, or not even realize that they do a bad play. And you're not really going to get better, you're not going to improve if you don't even realize when you make a mistake, right? So in my opinion, just take a couple seconds every single time you fail something or die. It's not a big deal. Like, you don't need to be upset or anything like that, but just think about, be like, okay, what did I do wrong, and what can I do for the future? Should I have placed that cone a little bit earlier? Should I have done the side jump earlier? Do I need to go farther out when I do the side jump? Do I need to flick my mouse more? Did I not loot enough? Like, it translates to both in creative and practicing and actual game. Now, the next thing that I see a lot of people do that, again, it's not the best thing ever, is either copying pro players' routines or copying their friends' routines. Now, having a good practice routine is really, really important, like to improve and become a better player. And the problem is every single person needs to work on something different, right? For majority of people, they might need to work on their aim. For the other majority, they might need to work on their editing or their IQ, right? So for example, if you look at a pro player's routine, like for example, let's say Mongrel, his routine is grinding the exact same drills every single day for hours on end and then grinding customs, right? That's basically his entire day, grinding like 4 or 5 drills and then grinding customs, right? And for you, that's probably not what you need to do. He already has unbelievable mechanics. He already has unbelievable aim, editing, and building. He already has absolutely crazy IQ, right? So the problem with that is if you try and copy his routine, your mechanics aren't at that level yet. Your IQ isn't at that level yet, right? So if you try and copy him and do the same things he's doing, you're not going to be improving your mechanics and your game sense and your everything else that you need to work on because you're so focused on small things. Like for example, pro players, they don't need to work on their mechanics and game IQ as much, like I said, because they already have it. So they need to start working on individual things that might separate a small win in a fight, but a win in a fight where, like for example, if Mongrel misses the Mongrel classic where he takes a wall and throws a ramp in, that could mean the difference between him winning the tournament and coming first, or him coming 9th in the tournament, right? Because that kill could lead to him getting more mats, more HP, and then doing better in the game, right? For you, if you don't even have good enough aim to win majority of fights, well then you don't need to work on that, right? Like obviously I'm not saying it's bad to practice 1 or 2 things, but I'm saying you need to have like a wide variety of different things you're going to work on. And by just practicing someone else's routine, who for example, let's say you practice your buddy's routine, who's just an absolute god at aiming but sucks at editing, so he's grinding editing a little bit. If you have really good editing but you suck at aiming and you just practice his routine where it's more editing focused, you're not going to improve the thing you're not good at, right? So don't copy people's routines just because they're like, oh, they're a little bit better than me. If I do the same thing, I'm going to become that good, right? Figure out what you need to work on, which I'll talk about in a next tip or in a future tip, but just don't practice someone else's routine just because you think they're better than you and then you're going to become better. Now the next tip is basically what I said, is not working on what you need to work on. It's very similar to the last tip, where if you're just kind of doing a random routine or not working on things that you actually need to work on, you're going to slow down your ability to improve very drastically. So basically what I mean is similar to the example I was saying before, is if someone has really good aiming but terrible editing, but they just keep working on their aiming, how are you supposed to become a better all-around player, right? You can have unbelievable aim, but in situations where you need to make that edit or you need to get out of a situation and edit away, you fail, your aim can try and bail you out, but in majority of the case scenarios, you're just going to lose the fight. Same thing with the opposite. If you're just the most cracked mechanically building and editing guy, like you have every single retake ever, you're just absolutely unreal in edit courses and things like that, yet when it comes to aiming you miss 60% of your shotgun shots, it doesn't really matter how good of an editor and builder you are, right? So what you need to do is realize what you need to actually work on. And I can't really tell you what to do because unfortunately it's different for each person. Some of you guys might need to work on your editing. Some of you guys might work on your aiming. Some of you need to work on your like IQ. Things like that you need to realize for yourself and start focusing on. I'm saying don't ever, like if you're really good at aiming, don't ever not train aim, right? Like aim's still super important, but maybe instead of spending 60% of your time on aiming and 40% on editing, maybe spend 60% of time on editing and 40% on aiming, or whatever the case is, right? Just make sure you work on things maybe you're not as skilled at, because that way you can bring it up to the level where you are just as skilled. Now the last thing I recommend, and so many people do this, whether it's people I used to work with on when I was coaching, or even my buddies, or even myself at the odd time, is going through the motions. By going through the motions, you think you're improving, and you think you're getting better, but in reality, you're not doing that much. Like you might be improving slightly, but nowhere near as much as if you're actually paying attention, focusing, pushing yourself, etc. So basically what I mean is when you're grinding Kovacs, or you're grinding free builds, edit courses, whatever the case is, even in game like arena, if you're grinding arena, if you're like just chilling and like not really paying attention to the game, like just going through the motions, watching Netflix on your other monitor, or talking to your buddy like 24/7 things like that. Like if you're not actually paying attention to the game and not focusing and not like really going as hard as possible, you're not going to improve as quick as you would as if you were going as hard as possible. Now, I'm not saying it's not bad to like watch Netflix or talk to your buddies or whatever the case is. Like 100% you can do that, but I'm saying if you want to improve a little bit quicker, maybe spend a little bit more time focusing, really focusing on what you're actually doing instead of just like not paying attention, right? So for me, when I play Kovacs, I play like Netflix on the side for like 10-15 minutes, and then for like 5 to 10 minutes of Kovacs, I just focus on Kovacs. I don't watch Netflix. I have some music playing, and I literally just focus and really try and grind the best scores possible. That way I know I'm getting as good practice as possible because I'm really focusing on what I'm doing. I'm not just going through the motions and doing it. So hopefully this helped you guys out. Hopefully this video really helped you guys kind of get out of a plateau or helped you guys improve a little bit. If it did, make sure you slap a like button on it, hit that subscribe button, use creator code WraithFN in the item shop. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.